Traveling the Vortex.
Kerblam! We've joined the Doctor as she travels the Vortex and arrives at episode number 407, Beware the Bubble Wrap. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn.
How are you guys?
Scared of bubble wrap now.
Haven't we been scared of bubble wrap for a long time, thanks to Doctor Who?
No.
Especially when it's spray painted
No,
green.
I'm just kind of glad that they finally used bubble wrap and made it scary this time.
A monster. It's a bubble wrap monster. Oh, wait, no, just a bubble wrap bomb.
How are you guys doing?
Not too bad.
Did you guys do anything fun this week?
We went and saw Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald.
Such a long time.
And a kind of misleading title, I think.
Is it?
I thought so.
Is it any good?
It was okay. It feels like a middle chapter. Which I think is my biggest complaint, is that it just feels like it's setting too much stuff up as opposed to doing a self-contained story. Where other like Harry Potter movies would do a self-contained story and still set stuff up. This feels like all set up.
Well, those were all built from books, which typically do that. But this,
true.
Yeah, this is building a movie franchise. So
and there wasn't enough
surprising.
beasts, in my opinion.
To have Fantastic Beasts.
To be called Fantastic Beasts, there weren't enough beasts. There were some, but not nearly as much as there should have been. It wasn't just quite as fun either. And it took a much more serious of a film, and I don't know if was our screening, but it was a very visually dark movie. I don't know. I think I need to see it a second time to kind of appreciate more of what they're trying to do, I think. We also watched Deadpool 2.
And you hadn't seen it yet?
I hadn't seen it yet.
And what did you think?
It was okay. I didn't love it either. Again, not as fun. I thought it had a much more serious tone to it, which, while it had the jokes, just the overall tone, it didn't seem like they were... maybe they were just trying to have lightning strike in a bottle a second time too hard, because it felt like they were trying to tell a good story, which I think the story is probably better than the first one. I just didn't have as much fun on the ride as I did the first time.
Yeah, it's a little bigger, a little more epic,
Yeah.
a little less fun.
Yeah.
Sean, did you do anything this week?
We went and saw Simple Favor. Showed up over at the Dollar Theater. I don't know if you guys have seen the trailers for that one.
Is that the Anna Kendrick one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it looks like a really good kind of murder mystery suspense thriller. And it is, but it's also a comedy.
Oh, I didn't realize it was a comedy.
I didn't either. In fact, it took me about an hour of going through, because they set everything up, and then the cop shows up and he delivers a couple lines that are funny, and I'm going, I'm not sure that's the tone I'd be striking in this situation for that. Are you doing this on purpose? And it kind of took me a couple more to get into it, to go, oh wait, no, you are doing this on purpose. It wasn't just some random joke that was thrown in. That the whole movie is a little off, and it's phenomenal. It's a lot of fun, but you kind of have to get past that initial gear shift midstream.
Do anything else?
Not really. Play some more Minecraft. What'd you do, Glenn?
Me too. Plays more Minecraft. We didn't watch anything really this week, but we went to the gingerbread home for the holidays and built our gingerbread houses. So it was fun. We do it every year. Cool. Shall we move on to feedback?
Sure, we can do feedback first if you want.
Oh yeah, we do news first, don't we?
Typically.
Let's mix it up.
We could do feedback and then our review and then do news.
Let's mix it up today.
Why not?
Sure. Our first bit of feedback comes from Holly.
Good thing I pulled this up in
Wait,
advance.
he's already ready.
Holly writes, hello guys. I have to say that I enjoyed this episode. Love the callback to the 11th Doctor's fascination with fezzes. Plus, I'll never look at bubble wrap the same way again. I was almost wondering if the Nestine consciousness hadn't made its way back, or another plastic-like alien offshoot. Didn't see the twist coming with who the actual bad guy was. Not much else to say. Wishing you all a happy Thanksgiving. Holly from Wisconsin.
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you, Holly.
Thanks, Holly.
And if you want to send feedback, how do they do that, Keith?
You can just go to our website, travelingthevortex.com, and fill out the Send Us Feedback tab. Or if you're viewing any of our posts on social media, just click through to our Facebook profile, and you can click the Send Us an Email tab right there. Or send it directly to feedback@travelingthevortex.com.
Very good. Well, let's move on to our review then, if we're going to do this out of order.
Kerblam.
Kerblam. Kerblam.
Delivery for the doctor. A mysterious message arrives in a package addressed to the doctor, leading her, Graham, Yaz, and Ryan to investigate the warehouse moon orbiting Kendoka, the home of the galaxy's largest retailer. Kerblam!
Womp womp.
Oh,
I didn't like it.
I thought it was okay. I didn't hate it.
I didn't hate it.
I felt the same way, Glenn, that it was okay. And reflecting on it further, I think it's the fact that it didn't stick the landing for me.
Far from it.
It tried, I think it was trying to do a social commentary and did not succeed as well as it could have. And I think it tried changing what the social commentary was mid-flow, and that's where the issue becomes. Because at first it's this really interesting exploration of an Amazonian future where they control everything in our lives, including workforce, population, etc., etc., and then it turns into terrorism, and it kind of spirals out of control and loses interest for me.
Concur.
I don't know. I don't feel like it devolved too much. I mean, I see what you're saying, and it did. It did all of those things, but I don't think it was to its detriment. I think it told a pretty solid middle-of-the-line story there. I liked the twist of the two heads of the company aren't really into it.
I like that a lot,
that was
too.
Very cool. I like that the
system
was not really, behind it, which they kind of lead you down both of those roads at some point. And I was pleased by the twist because I didn't see it coming. I didn't see this kid being who he was. I thought his motivations were more manic than they were.
Maybe that's my problem, is the fact that the motivations were so manic.
I think ultimately he could have achieved his end goal in a better way, but...
Because what if they didn't... Okay, I get bubble wrap is irresistible to most people, but when I get it, I typically don't pop it.
You're not human.
No, why? Pod person.
A lot of times I just toss it.
My whole household went... What? What?
I can resist the allure of bubble wrap.
We had more of a, we're boned. Just, Kerblam.
Yeah.
Just calling it right now.
I did like that the title had a double meaning, too.
Yeah.
I was a little disappointed that the, what's her name? Judy? Who was the girl that ate it?
Oh, yeah.
Was that Kira?
Kira.
I was a little upset, but as far as the motivations of the plot go, it made sense. For a series that we've talked about having this season not a very low body count, this one felt like, even though there were a lot of off-camera kills, but
there were.
It felt like there were a lot of people unnecessarily killed in this one, and again, I think it was to drive the plot, and
I think the problem is that they're making us care about them.
Well, yeah.
I mean, if it's random poacher number 4, I don't care if he gets eaten by the
salad
mummy.
guy in the first episode.
Yeah,
really
no big loss there. Curmudgeonly lighthouse keeper. All right. Not Dan. He has a daughter at home. That's not cool.
Well, on top of that, he was played by Lee Mack, who's one of my favorites, but he's a favorite comedian of mine in the UK. He's on a lot of panel shows, and so he showed up, and I was like, "Oh, hey, cool! I know this guy." And then he eats it like
womp womp.
10 minutes into the episode. I was like, "Oh, well, there's your cameo." So I was a little upset by that, but overall, I felt like it stuck the landing. I think it probably had other paths it could have gone down, but I thought it was fine the way that it ended. I did kind of expect the doctor to try a little harder to save the kid from blowing himself up, but then again, she did give him a chance, and even Graham at that was trying his best. There's not much you can do when that thing's about to go off. But
yeah,
I don't know. I thought it was good. It's certainly not the strongest episode of the season, but it's still there's not a down. I mean, I don't feel like we've dipped underneath the level of good. So
No, I think
I
it's
was
just.
pleased.
I think maybe my disappointment is just based off the level of other stories this season.
I think
is
that's
definitely the bottom of the pack, but it's not one that I would skip at all.
Yeah, for any series, it's difficult to maintain a level when you put out
And we've gone
a lot of good stuff.
5 episodes,
And I
strong
think
so
that, to
far,
be quite
6.
honest with you, I'm hoping next week's will be really strong too, because they really have. I think Rosa was really, really good, and then it kind of dipped a little bit for the next week, and then went back up for well, there was a couple of stories.
There were two. There was arachnids. And
Arachnids.
then,
I think I'm trying to erase
Stitch.
arachnids from my
Saranga.
yeah.
And Saranga was Punjab was the really good one. So
Yeah.
I think they've done this thing
And
where
I think
they've
that's-
kind of peaked and valleyed. Although I don't think the valleys are really valleys. I think they're just
No,
kind of
it's
slopes,
really
you
not
know?
that low. And that's the downside of Kerblam, is it's following up Demons of the Punjab.
Right.
And Demons of the Punjab was such a phenomenal story that it's how do you follow that up?
would
I
agree.
mean,
I would agree. I still think the visuals are stunning. I think
Oh,
it
yeah.
looks really good. And it kind of hit me that the reason we're getting 10 episodes this season is because they're spending a lot on production. And I think that's why they've trimmed it back. And I'm kind of grateful, even though I'm sad that we won't get as many episodes this season. I'm kind of glad that the money's being well spent.
yeah. I think they're shooting it very well to maximize their money, because there was so much of that you couldn't really tell what was happening, and it worked to its favor in some of the action bits, like them going down the chutes. It's kind of tighter shots on a lot of them, and there's another section where I thought, wow, there's a lot of tight shots here to make it so you don't really see what's happening to them. I thought that was well done.
Out of necessity.
Yeah.
In this one especially.
Well, in other episodes too, they've kind of done the same style.
I don't know. This is the first one that I felt like wasn't shot to the level of the rest of the season, but I think it has more to do with
I think
the
location.
ambitious special effects sequence. I mean, when you're tumbling
a
down,
lot more visual effects.
yeah. I mean, when you're tumbling down a conveyor belt inside a gargantuan Amazon Prime warehouse, and you don't have the Star Wars Attack of the Clones budget, you you shoot it this way.
I
It's
love
like,
that you said Prime.
well, it is an Amazon Prime warehouse. It's not a regular Amazon warehouse. It's an Amazon Prime warehouse.
Amazon has successfully brainwashed him into thinking there's only Amazon Prime.
No. There are other
Only
Amazons.
speaking
but,
Amazon Prime.
But Amazon Prime is the big one. This is the Prime
Well, you
warehouse.
can tell he's an Amazon customer.
Much to my chagrin.
I think the other thing that this one, a lot of people were pointing out that they're the heavy-handed moral story here, and they're pushing the whole we're automating ourselves out of positions and jobs, which I think is certainly true to a certain point. But I think you have to understand and look at a point that we will never get to a point where only 10% of people are part of the product forehead. And the reason we can't do that is because if people don't have jobs to have money to spend on that stuff,
Right.
it'll self-collapse anyway. So I think that this kind of maybe exaggerates that a little bit too much, if that's going to be the thing that I think wasn't very good about it. Was I think that they could have easily upped that number a little bit to make that a little more believable to me. But if only 10% of the population is working and making money, there's nobody to buy the products that are being delivered.
Well, I suppose the question is it 10% of the population of this planet while you're still shipping galactically? But the one guy has.
But they did point
he
out
has a
that it was a
comment
certain
about it.
region or a certain
Yeah.
area. They keep
Yeah.
saying a certain name. So
Yeah.
And the one guy had a comment about the galactic economy had fallen off. So, which I mean, it's not the first time Doctor Who's done. I mean, the Sunmakers.
yeah,
Economically,
exactly.
yeah.
We've done that before. For me, I think maybe it had such a promising open. I loved the Fez joke. That was just great. And it kind of set everything up, and then we land, and it's another, interesting location that doesn't quite look like, I mean, yeah, obviously it's a plant somewhere in the UK.
Well, it's a
but,
distribution center, is what it is.
Well, but I mean, just the visual of the exterior location.
Well, I still think it was probably a distribution.
Yeah,
well, I think
well, it could
I
be.
think those exteriors were completely computer generated.
I think so,
the
too.
entire
Yeah.
thing was. I think the only shots were probably office shots, that packaging room, and that parking garage that they apparently shot. It looked so much like a
Oh
parking
yeah,
Parking garage.
I think those were probably the only real
Foundation
locations.
level.
I have a feeling everything else was computer generated background.
But so we get okay. This is kind of cool. It's a good start, and then it just stopped. The whole forward motion of the plot screeched to a halt because we're going to go to work. And even Ryan's coming.
That didn't seem to bother me either.
This is what I did. Okay. So we get really bogged down in the minutia of and then the packages come from here, and then they go there, and then they come over here, and then they do this, and then you wrap them. And
I bet you felt kind of like Graham leaning on the mop
Oh,
while
I
they were
was
giving Rule 172.
Once again, Graham was the bright
Cleaning
spot
and
of the
maintenance.
episode for me. But it just kind of went on and on and on and on. And I looked over at Mel, and she was sitting there with one hand up on her. I mean, bored. We're just. How does Doctor Who become boring? What happened? So it's going on, and it's doing its thing, and people are disappearing. It's like, okay, well, this has promise. The investigation is boring. The plant operatives are boring. The other characters are okay. That's kind of cool. No, I'm wrong. You're boring too. It just, and then
I wouldn't go that far.
I wouldn't go that far either. I didn't think it was. I wasn't bored at any point.
I wasn't bored at all.
and then we got to the end,
I think
and
what
it
it
was.
boils down to is Sean just doesn't like the series because he doesn't like the
But I
he doesn't
like
he
Jodie
doesn't like
Whittaker.
the
that's
13th
not
Doctor?
true.
13th
I
Doctor.
liked last week's.
Okay, so one story.
And I'm completely willing to concede that maybe I'm coming down harder on this one because last week's was so good. Okay, that's a valid concern. But it just, nothing happened. And then we got to the end, and they revealed that it's the bubble wrap. And I went, oh, that's genius. Because it's all of a sudden, it's this callback to snowmen and statues and all those things that we've been made afraid of on Doctor Who. And it's innocuous, and it's simple, and it's pervasive because it's already out there. It's some in my home right now. Oh, this is going to be great. No, we wrapped that up in,
bubble wrap.
we wrapped that up in 20 seconds, and it's like, okay, we're done. You're going to hire more people? Right. Love you. Bye.
That was another thing as they're leaving, and they said that we're going to hire more people. And then I sort of thought, well, you can only hire up to the 10% because there's a law that doesn't allow you to. Well, no, that's not true. I guess it had to be at least 10%.
I think you had to keep a minimum.
You had to keep a
10%.
minimum, so I guess they could hire more than above that.
But yeah, it just, and Mel looked at me and went, eh. And then she got up and she started to pace, and she got very animated about, I am so angry right now. I said, what? She says, I like this show. What happened? It's like, wow, okay. So she's even more beside herself than I am, and I'm the guy that's coming on here being the mouthpiece going, it wasn't that great. She's really upset by it. But it just laid there the whole episode. Didn't it? Was, if we're going to go with the gymnastics analogy, what a great sprint down the thing. And then they crashed head first into that hobby horse and kind of sort of stumbled onto that landing. But it just,
I think you're being too harsh on it.
no, it just nothing.
You sound like
because it
every
sounds
other
like
little
you
grumpy fanboy on the internet.
But I haven't read any of that. That should tell you something. I purposely have stayed away from everything just so that I can keep a fresh mind.
I don't even think that it's so much. No, I don't want to presume what you're feeling, so never mind. I was just saying, I don't think it's so
Good.
much that you. Well, I won't go that far, but I don't think it's so much that you would even have to be reading, because I don't think there's a lot of people feeding off of other people. I think that happens. I think that is happening.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of genuine fans out there that are upset without being fed into by that. But I think that it's just because it's not how they perceive it. It's not how it's every week you come saying, the doctor wouldn't do this, the doctor wouldn't do that. I suppose that's certainly a valid point, although I think she was very doctor-like this week, so that's not really your argument this week.
Yeah,
but,
no, she was
but
fine.
it's those kind of things. It's that those just ingrained perceptions of how things should be. Not necessarily you, but that's how the grumpy fanboy is. And it's just those perceptions of how things should be, and it's almost like a stalwart to change. But again, that doesn't really touch on what you're saying that you didn't like about the episode.
Well,
this week, so.
a lot of it, honestly, is pacing. This one in particular just felt so slow. And if I were to reference a previous episode where we went undercover in a job situation, school reunion. So we go undercover at the school, and there's something going on, but we're not quite sure what.
Well, it didn't have a problem with pacing.
We get 2, maybe 3 scenes of them undercover, and then there's a reveal, and dun, 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 and things pick up, and then we're chasing the bad guy, and it moved. This one was scene after scene after scene after scene of just, okay, we're at work.
We see what they were doing.
Happening.
A little bit more of the difference is School Reunion had characters we're familiar with.
Yeah, I mean,
and this is building new supporting characters and exploring those characters, whereas we just needed quick. Here's what Sarah Jane's been up to. A lot of eye
candy going. Oh, hey, it's Sarah Jane. Oh, there's K9.
Right, that's very fair.
And we know Mickey.
They're distracting us from the problems of them.
And once again, I liked the fact that all of our characters were giving something to do. I love Graham. That he's just so much the rock of this team, and probably the most. I mean, the whole thing grinds to a halt without him at this point, because he did all of the heavy lifting for this episode.
Ryan did quite a bit.
Ryan did a little bit, but ultimately, when it comes down to it, Ryan's big contribution was, let's go save the chick, and falling down an elevator shaft to get there, only to find out we could have teleported and nothing really happened with him either. I mean, when you boil it down, his contributions didn't really.
Well, what were Graham's?
Well, Graham, first of all, I mean, obviously the position that he was in, because it should have been the other way around, but being with the guy and getting all of the information from who it turns out is the terrorist, but getting the robot, getting the map, getting everything came back down to Graham's contributions is what propelled that forward. And the Doctor kind of fed off of that, and then they would split off and go do something else. Wait, and it would be Graham that had
feed off that. The Doctor said, "This is what I need," and Graham delivered.
Well,
that's what
Graham went.
There was
no
feeding off. It wasn't like Graham came up with all the ideas.
No, that's not what I'm saying. But Graham did the heavy lifting, and then he brought it back to the Doctor and said, "Here, I got this." And she went, da-da-da, "Okay, let's go do this." And then Graham came back and said, "Here, I got this." And they went, da-da-da.
All he got was the plans. He didn't get the robot. He did tell him where the robot could be found.
Told him where the robot would be found. So it's just da-da-da-da. So he's really the integral part of everything that's going on. Yaz finally gets a police moment. All right, I've got him in. Oh, he escaped. Really? Because I just feel like you're undermining her character now.
Yeah.
There's just so many little things that it just frustrated.
I liked the fact that she was there for Dan, and they had developed this kind of relationship, and then she tried to help him but he was gone by then. And then she runs away. But I like the fact that she had found the little thing that his daughter had given to him, and she, at the end, made it her purpose to deliver it back to her. So I thought that was good.
She found a clever way to get away from the menace, as opposed to just running towards them or away from them down the long corridor.
Yes, true. She could have kept running down the long corridor,
and eventually get captured.
Yeah.
Sorry, Donna, if this was Planet of the Ood, we would have run down that long corridor. Sorry, Rose, we would have run down that long corridor. No, I that was cool. And I like the fact that we are getting those personalized moments, because previous Doctors would not have had, maybe, explored in a piece of fan fiction off camera. We'd have got something where the Doctor
would have got a companion chronicle for...
Yeah. Yet another episode. We're going to go say I'm sorry to this person. But it was nice to see Yaz be the one to go, I want to go take this to his family, and the Doctor going, yeah, we should. That's the least we can do. That's cool. I like those moments. And I also like the fact that we didn't have to sit through it. And I don't mean that to be snide. I mean that because that's an emotional gut punch that I don't want. I don't need it. It's enough for me to know that you're going to go take care of business, and that it happens, and then I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So, that's cool. But the rest of it?
So you're wrong by about 90% of it. 10% you're right on. So no, you certainly make a lot of good valid points. But I didn't feel the same way. Number one, I wasn't bored ever.
Well,
I thought it was really
too.
interesting and intriguing. Well, it wasn't predictable
Well,
because
as soon as they landed, it was like, well, okay, everything's automated. There's only 10% of the population here, and the
Well, yeah,
cards are not being stamped in this room. They come to
but
us from somewhere else.
They
Well,
turn
it's the
all
computer.
They turn all that on
And
its
then you
head
made me wait 40
because
minutes before you revealed
that's
it.
not true because they turn everything on their head when it's revealed that neither of the head of the corporation guys are in on it, and then it's revealed later that it's not the computer, it's not the system, it's
The
this
computer
one
was
guy.
needing
The
help.
system was
Now
trying
that was cool. Yes, but it
But so it's not predictable.
It was predictable
They
because-
set it. They set it in a situation to make you think because based on prior experience with these type of stories, they made you think, and that was a great deception tactic. So when you say predictable, it wasn't predictable. It was purposefully predictable, but it wasn't predictable.
It was
because they
predictable
turned
from
it
the
on their ear.
standpoint that I knew it was the computer that sent the help message. The computer, the system, is the one that sent the message to the doctor.
Oh, I didn't get that either.
Oh, I totally
got
got
that
that right off the
until
bat. And I could nitpick the fact that, okay, it's a Fez, which means more than likely the 11th Doctor ordered it, which means more than likely this has been going on for a very long time. But yet we've only lost 6 people, 7 people, however many were
Oh
disappearing.
no, it was
8.
No.
We only had files on a handful. There was less than
15, I
10.
think, wasn't
Maybe,
it?
okay,
No, I think it was
15.
15.
15 people
I think it was
over
20. I
all
think it was
of
20. I don't know. As far as go up as high as I can, he'll go with me.
Okay,
No.
20. 20 people
it was 100.
What do you
disappeared.
mean? That's a lot of people, Sean.
Disappeared between the 11th Doctor, the 12th Doctor, and now the 13th Doctor.
so-
Sean, you're thinking too literally.
You're right, I am, because she could have set the coordinates to go back to when it was ordered.
Right.
Okay, I'll let that one slide. But still, the moment we establish that everything's automated, it's like, okay, the computer's the one calling for help. Got it. Move on. But instead, I get this silly
I didn't get that.
chase sequence with, well, maybe it's this executive you're not supposed to like. That's my boss.
Well,
I'm not supposed to like that
I
person.
completely
That's-
see why you think. I mean, if you completely pegged that from the beginning, of course it was boring for you because you knew the whole plot.
No, I didn't know the whole plot.
Well, no, you did because
no, I
what you're
didn't.
saying- You're talking.
Because,
You're
hang
talking
on.
about knowing all of the important details of the plot.
Hang
yes,
on.
you knew all.
I
of that,
knew
so
that
I
was
can
the
see
computer.
why it would have been boring.
So all of the running around with the bosses was immaterial to me because it was like you're chasing your tail. That's not it. And then we finally get to the reveal that okay, the computer's the one that called for help. And it's like finally, thank goodness. But then the why the computer called for help that I didn't see coming, and so that was cool. And the
Well,
fact
only
that
the
it
last
was
5 minutes.
But that's just it. That's where I felt like bubble wrap revelation. That's where it came
Bravo,
alive to me.
You're a better detective than
Oh,
I
for
am
Pete's
because
sake.
that's. I didn't see it coming at all. I didn't see that the computer.
I
system
thought it was
there.
predictable.
Uh,
It was just, I don't know. It was just too much
we
of a
may
trail
get
of
one
breadcrumbs.
story this season that he'll like. Well, I guess
I
we'll have to
liked
see.
last week's.
All right, we might.
This
we
is why I
might
don't bother
get two.
coming.
Might get
We
two.
might get two.
Might get two.
I'm not going to come to these anymore because you're just going to.
Shut up and quit because you didn't like the series.
You ask
Just
for
like
my
every other
opinion and then
fanboy out
you
there.
derail me from being able to voice it.
You're right. No, I see your point with many of these situations. I think you're being overly critical this season. After 7 episodes in, I think you've been overly critical. I think from week to week, but
and that's frustrating.
That's your thing.
I don't know. It's not my thing.
No, I think
Have we met?
No,
This is totally not
that's
my
your thing
thing
with this particular set of stories. So that's okay. You can have that opinion. I know you're wrong, but I think you can have that opinion.
I don't know. I keep believe me. I keep analyzing it. I keep going back and back over and over, going because I look back at the Capaldi years and I remember thinking, wow, this one was really kind of a stinker. We had the Pyramid one. We had that one just was terrible. I liked Capaldi, but that's really the only. Oh, Clara's in this, and I was a downer. And so maybe the fact that I have put all of my hopes and dreams into this season to come up from that.
It's not meeting your expectations.
Yeah, maybe
that have been set
that's
too
it.
high.
I've looked at that angle. I've looked at maybe I am just one of those hateful fanboys that this isn't my show. I don't want to be that guy. Maybe I am. I don't know. I keep coming back to it and going, all right, this will be the week.
Well, if you look at it this way, though, there's only 3 more episodes left. 4 if you include something that we're going to talk about in news. I almost spoiled that, didn't I? But there's only 3 more left. So once we get done with the series, then we move back into books and audios and things like that. And maybe your spirits will pick back up.
I hope so. I don't like being the grumpy old man.
And that's my role.
I know.
You guys have switched roles.
That's not true. There are times when I very much enjoy being the grumpy old man, but Doctor Who is not one of those things. If you're yelling at the kids shooting off fireworks, it's like, yes, I will be the grumpy old man.
Get off my lawn.
Get off my lawn.
All right. Is there anything else you guys wanted to point out about this particular story?
I don't think so.
I thought it was well acted.
Yeah.
I thought
You're still reaching for good things.
I am. I thought all the characters were engaging.
You're repeating, but
No, the characters were engaging.
oh, the characters were engaging.
That's different from the acting. Yeah. We have talked about the production, which it's been high. Although the effects on this one were a little dodgy, but there's not much you can do with it.
I will concur with you there, but I think only in the big industrial conveyor belt scene. I think was a little bit. I mean, yeah.
Well, like I said, you don't have
Only
Star
so much
Wars
you can
money,
do.
so it's
Yeah.
like,
Well,
okay.
but it even I don't. Yeah, the Droid Factory scene I've never thought was really well done special effects wise either. So
Too CGI'd.
yeah,
Too CGI.
that's what it is. It's too CGI. So I wouldn't compare it to that.
Anytime I see any of these big action sequences like this, all I can hear is George Lucas in my head going, real, not so real, not so real, with his little colored markers.
I think the best CGI massive delivery floor sequence that I've ever seen was in Monsters Inc. So it was the best one.
It's hard
the
to
most,
top
the most
that one.
realistic one too. So,
I'll concur with that. The scare floor is impressive.
All right,
All those doors.
should we move on to our? Oh, I'm lost now. News. That's where we're at now. Let's move on to news.
So as Glenn hinted to,
I feel like this is super special news now because we held on to it.
we are
It's not everybody that knows it now.
we are getting a New Year's Day special next year instead of a Christmas special this year.
All right, Sean, what do you hate about that?
That Doctor Who has always had a Christmas special, and that it needs to have a Christmas special.
I don't know. The Seventh Doctor didn't get a Christmas special. Sixth Doctor didn't get a Christmas special.
The fact
Doctor Who only started at
Oh,
2005.
20,000.
in regards to recent history, yes,
But they've already had a New Year's Day special.
yeah, end of time.
Yeah.
Part two.
Look how that turned
Part
out.
two. Part two.
Look how that turned out.
Wasn't part 2 better than part 1?
No.
It was worse than part one.
Except for the last.
But we didn't have Master eating flesh in part 2.
But that was the only bad part about part one. Part two just completely derailed after that.
All of part 2 sucked, except for Wilf and the extended goodbye sequence. Everything else you can just.
No,
kind of
seriously,
throw
what do
away.
you think of that? Is it because it's not Christmas Day?
Well, for the people who are complaining that we're not getting a Christmas special, I counter with when you look at the number of them that have really been Christmassy. That number
Good Christmassy.
that number's kind of small, realistically.
Well,
maybe half if you count all the kind of pseudo elements to it.
I think in their defense, it's because I don't feel this way, but that's why I say in their defense, it's the event idea, not
That's the
necessarily the
problem,
connection.
yes.
It's not the connection to Christmas as far as theming, because you're right. There's only been a handful of them that really.
Well, I
connect to
can
Christmas,
see it
but-
both ways because, obviously we love Christmas Carol,
Right.
Which a Christmas Carol, it's in the title. Okay, that's a kind of a big deal. Christmas Invasion is setting only, realistically. I mean, we've got pilot fish and killer trees, but that's all decoration. That has really nothing to do with the plot. Christmas Carol is plot. Doctor Within the Wardrobe is plot to a lesser extent.
But I've said it before that from the UK perspective, when they set these things up, in the UK, the big tradition was you had Christmas morning, you opened presents, and you had Christmas dinner at lunch, and then family spent time together and did fun things. And then in the evening, everybody watched a movie, and it was usually what movie was playing on the BBC that night because they would,
Disaster movies.
They would relegate that to the cheapest movie they could probably find on Christmas Day. It was always these big disaster films, and that's what Russell T Davies remembered about Christmas Day, watching TV Christmas night. And so that's why he started the Christmas specials down that road of they were these big epic disaster films.
Right. It wasn't
and-
until Moffat that he really started
Yeah,
tying in the
exactly.
plot.
So when you look at the overall bulk of the Christmas stories, we've had disaster film era, and then we've had a handful of genuine Christmassy specials. But even those kind of fell. I mean, there's not a lot of Christmas in The Snowman. There's not a lot of, and honestly, that's kind of
No,
completely
it seemed
overshadowed
like
by Who is Clara.
For a while, they've been
It's a
kind
winter
of pushing
special.
they've been pushing the Christmas trappings in some of them.
Right.
Yeah.
And so to finally nail it down, and of course, it kind of makes a comeback with Santa.
Right.
You can't get any more Christmassy than that. Last Christmas, thank you. But Return of Dr. Mysterio? So when you look at them on the whole, it's
Well,
like...
Moffat already admitted he was struggling to come up with an idea for a Christmas special.
So
anyway.
we're struggling to come up with ideas for Christmas specials. Okay, I'm fine with going back to the disaster era or doing something because, like you said, it's event TV. It's something that's going to do that. Am I upset that it's going to be moved to New Year's? Not really.
It sounds like
I'm going to miss the slot. I'm going to miss our tradition of we're going to watch Doctor Who on Christmas. That Christmas is...
Well, this won't be a new episode.
It won't be that episode. Christmas is family. Christmas is, your family, his family, my family, so-and-so's family, the parents, the grandparents,
Not all
wherever
together.
you're
We
going,
don't all
whatever.
get together.
Yeah, no.
But it's not all of these groups getting together. on
But
Christmas.
that was. We would get together and at the very least talk about the Doctor Who, that we would all carve out a section of that Christmas. We did presents and family and meal and maybe a movie or whatever you have individually going on. Each one of us carved out an hour at some point in time that weekend to sit down with their respective families and watch the Doctor Who Christmas special. And then the three of us would get together and talk about it. And that's been the tradition since we started this.
That's the thing is, though, my motivations about not caring about this topic, but not caring about being on Christmas Day, comes down to selfish reasons for me.
Oh, sure, that gives you more time with your family.
I have never liked the fact that there's a Christmas special on Christmas. I mean, it's great that we get another thing of Doctor Who at the end of the year.
When most of your extended family doesn't like Doctor
That's
Who or
just
know
it.
about Doctor Who.
I absolutely love the
hard
fact
to
that we're
squeeze
getting
it in.
another Doctor Who. Don't get me wrong, but every year it falls on Christmas Day, and there's all this hype and
It's like working on a holiday.
And people, and that's just it. I never end up getting around to watching it until a day or two later, anyway. When I'll record it or download it later, and that's ultimately what happens. And so this year, I'm like. It's not that I'm like, oh yay, it's not on Christmas Day, because ultimately I would watch it a day or two later anyway. But I don't have any sort of like ingrained holiday tradition with Doctor Who for me, because it's usually a day or two later until I get to it anyway. And so it's one of those things where it's not a tradition for me. It's not an expectation for me. It's not the whole family sits down and watches Doctor Who, because our family, we travel out of town practically every year. And if we don't, then we have a large family gathering until late into the evening, and we don't get around to it anyway. So, yeah, and that's why I said
I can totally see that.
My side of it is perfectly selfish. And it's that I'm glad. It's just that I don't really care. It doesn't really affect me.
Well, and I think it's great that it's going to be on New Year's, because it makes the episode itself more of an event.
Yeah.
Because
there's nothing else to do on New
exactly
Year's Eve except for watch a clock.
Either you're going to be
New Year's Day except for watch football.
Right. Either you're going to be watching football or hungover, and by the time it airs, you're going to be,
the viewing ratings were down this year because everybody was hungover when they tried to watch Doctor Who.
No, but they're going to be on the couch not doing anything anyways, so they're going to be able to watch it.
Their enjoyment might be tainted in the fact of the way they feel. So.
Well, maybe this will make them feel better.
You run it late.
It's a hangover cure.
See, exactly.
You run it late enough in the afternoon that you've already slept in. You've gotten over the hangover, and now you're just kind of lounging. You're munching on the leftovers, and Doctor Who's on. And
a nice distraction of going back to work tomorrow.
If you really want to get into that stereotype, because none of the geeks ever watched the sports ball, well, this is a perfect thing for New Year's Day.
It's true.
Because, we're not doing that anyway. So.
But that being said, has BBC America confirmed that they're going to run it at Christmas or on New Year's Day?
I have not seen anything from BBC America.
I can't conceive them not doing it. I mean, obviously they're going to, but it
I
really
would be-
is right now only the BBC that is
BBC America is going to run it on Christmas.
I wouldn't be surprised if BBC America does another simulcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
But ultimately, if you're not a BBC America subscriber, because it is a higher cable tier and you do have to pay more for that, then you might be one of these people. Like, we have a lot of listeners that don't watch Doctor Who until Monday because they have season pass. They have to wait. So,
I tell you what I don't like about it is the idea that we're going to get our 3 more episodes for the end of this series, and then I have to wait until next year to get 1 more episode, and then I have to wait again because there's no more in 2019.
Well, we don't know that for sure.
No, we don't know that for
They
sure.
have come out and said
And-
that
No,
there
they
won't
no.
be anything until
It's
at
funny.
the very end
They-
of that
they
year
have
at
autumn.
best.
Autumn, which would be the normal schedule for Doctor Who seasons for us, so it's not any different.
I'm
than
angry,
it
Glenn.
has
Don't
been.
take it away from me.
I did think it was coy that somebody had their headline. BBC does confirm that Doctor Who will air in 2019.
Yes,
Because it has a Christmas special.
Yes.
Or no, it has a
It will air in
It
2019,
has a
regardless.
New Year's Day
beginning of the year special, New Year's Day special. I thought that was very coy. I clicked on the link. I went, oh, good. When have they said it's coming back? Oh, I knew that.
Clickbait.
Yep.
No, it's going to change some of the dynamic, and like you said, probably for the better.
And it will be for a lot of people, though, too, that do count on watching it, sitting down with the family watching it Christmas night.
Well, and thanks to Doctor Who, a lot of other shows have picked up the Christmas special mantle also that didn't used to do it. So
Well-
it's much stiffer competition getting on the BBC
Yeah, I think that's
for a
that-
Christmas special.
That's true, and that's not true because they've been doing Christmas specials since the 1980s. They just would always kind of rotate. I think maybe they've upped the number of them, but
I think
it's not.
there's more than
There
used
have
to.
been Christmas specials. Shows have done Christmas specials since at least the early 90s. So
I suppose this will be the big kicker, is to find out how it performs, what the ratings are like. Quality of the episode aside, it'll be something that the higher ups are definitely paying attention to. And does it work? And if it works, and if the numbers are there, Doctor Who will have New Year's specials from this point out. And there are some people going, but what about the Christmas lot? Well, if it works on New Year's, I'm fine giving that up.
I think the other thing you have to look at is I
Christmas
wonder if they've looked at numbers in the past, and I haven't looked into this myself to see if the numbers have been higher or very high for Christmas. But you're also competing with family gatherings. You're competing.
Oh,
with,
yeah.
you're
There's a lot
competing
more to
with
compete
movies
with.
because a lot of people have had a tradition of going to a movie on Christmas night. Then they have Doctor Who been around since 20. Well, the first one would have been 2005.
2006.
But the benefit is
No,
that
right, 2006. We didn't get one until
now you can go to a Fathom event and watch it in Christmas. So-
right. But I guess that's my
Never
point
on
is they
Christmas,
might
no.
look at Christmas being a low ratings day anyway, no matter what you put on there. But New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, when you probably have more people watching TV because they're not doing anything, they don't have the gatherings. All of the festivities are the night before.
Yeah.
So
Or maybe it's the reverse. Maybe New Year's Day is an absolute wasteland of ratings where there's nothing going on, and they're going, we're going to put Doctor Who on and get a spike in these numbers. We're going to force people to sit down and go, oh, hey, I can watch TV today.
right.
So,
could be
there's any number of wins from this move.
Well, and
I'm
who
against it
knows-
because it goes against tradition. But that's the only reason I'm against it. Really, I mean, everything else is a plus. Realistically, when you boil it down, there's no downside to it.
Yeah.
So,
And who
It's
knows
just
how much
different.
of this, how much of it is also Chibnall had a New Year's story instead of a Christmas story. It's hard
that'll be
to
interesting.
It's hard to
see.
tell
I
from the
know that it
synopsis they
says.
gave.
I know that it hints to that, but I wonder how much it's really going to tie into New Year's.
as much as
the
the
movie.
The movie is, that's what I'll be watching on New Year's.
and then this,
And then this.
or vice versa.
Then there'll be
vice versa.
2 New Year's related episodes, television episodes.
Yay.
Cool.
If-
Any other
if
news?
We're still doing Friday Night Who. It'd give us something to rotate out.
That's true.
No other news,
All right. Well,
rumors, and stuff we're not going to comment on.
we're holding on to those until they become fact.
Yes.
All right. Well, don't forget that you can support this podcast by giving us your money. You can become a patron of the podcast by subscribing on Patreon or signing up for Patreon and clicking on that link on our website, travelingvortex.com. It'll take you there and it'll show you how you can contribute on a monthly basis to this podcast. Every bit of it goes right into this podcast. None of it goes into our pockets. Everything goes into this. Make it bigger and better. And
Can I add something to that real quick?
yeah,
since
yeah.
we're thinking about, somebody asked, like I legit had this conversation. They're like, so I follow some artists on Patreon, and they put all their stuff on Patreon, all their correspondence is through Patreon, all of their art is on Patreon. You guys have like Facebook and a YouTube channel, and it's on every week you say you can follow us on blah blah blah. Why would I give you money for something you're giving away for free? And they were trying to be complimentary about it, and it was like, well, because you want to support the artist. That's kind of where we're coming from. Yes, we're providing all this stuff, and yes, we do give exclusives to our patrons. Not as many as we should, and not as many as we'd like. We are working on it. I know we've said that before, but we are. But it's just a matter of when you find something that you enjoy, whether it's Doctor Who or football or whatever, and that costs money to produce. And so you sit through the advertisements or whatever in order to continue to enjoy it. And our commercial is the Patreon bit. So if you can contribute something, that's the reasoning behind that.
Well
I
said.
murdered my grand speech there, but that's
Well said. No, you did well.
Very well said.
it was much better in my head.
And you can find this podcast for free on Player FM, Google Play Store, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and still working on Spotify. Remind me, by the way, guys, to get with Spotify and find out what's going on in that one because it is taking a while. No, remind me later. Don't try to send me ESP vibes or something.
Hey, go ahead and look in the Spotify.
Get that, but look for us on Spotify hopefully soon. All right. Anything else we need to touch on before we close this one out, guys?
I don't believe so.
All
I don't
right.
think so.
That's going to do it for this week. Until next week, I'm Glenn.
I'm the grumpy old man.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Be seeing you.
I thought you were going to go grrr.
Grr.
Get off my lawn. Thanks for listening.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.